All right, I believe we are live, Tom.
We're live?
Yes.
Oh, hell yeah. All right. Welcome back, everybody. Tom and Dave's Day. It's March 3rd. It's a Wednesday. We got a good episode coming up for you. We got our 5 favorite players from both of our teams, the Heat and the Knicks. We've got a little bit of preview of the All-Star festivities that will surround the All-Star game, your dunk contest previews, your three-point contest previews, your skills competition previews.
Mm.
But first,
We
before we
got
get into
the
all the exciting things, Dave,
Rising Stars game non-participants, but would have participated had there been a game announced today
the
as well.
The Stars Rising honorees have officially been announced, and I'm very happy for them. But before we get into all of the All-Star festivities, Dave, you have a sandwich.
Yeah. I have been over the last week or so. I've been very aggressively marketed this new McDonald's chicken sandwich. It has been all over my Twitter, all over my Instagram. And then I started mentioning it to people. I started mentioning hey, this is all over my Twitter, all over my Instagram, and then I got more of them. So definitely another.
The algorithm knows.
Yeah, no, the algorithm was working because now I have it in my hands. So whatever they were doing worked. I got the.
Now, Dave, it sounds like you're introducing a live on-air taste test of this McDonald's crispy chicken sandwich.
Yes, I got the spicy chicken.
Interesting.
I have it right here. I got the
now,
spice.
Dave,
Mm-hmm.
if I may cut in, that looks, and I do not mean to disrespect like a McChicken.
It does. It does look a lot like McChicken. I'd say the biggest differences I can see here, the meat looks of slightly better quality. It doesn't look like the same type. Like the McChicken just kind of feels like the nuggets morphed. They morphed it into
Dave,
a patty.
having done some research on the McDonald's spicy crispy chicken sandwich, I think you've hit on one of the major differences between the two, which is that the McChicken is made of a delightfully crispy chicken fillet, whereas the new spicy crispy chicken sandwich is made of a crispy, juicy, and tender perfection.
I mean, I'll be honest, that's what it looks
that's what
like.
it's described as.
Can you tell me what else is on it?
The real difference seems to be that the McChicken is made with a McChicken patty, and the new spicy crispy chicken sandwich is made with a crispy chicken fillet. So you, a discerning eater of McDonald's, picked up on that right away.
Yeah, I mean, it's just because it's slightly misshapen and not a perfect circle, which made me think that, okay, maybe this is slightly more legitimate meat than the McChicken meat. What else is on here? I didn't really look at the menu exactly. Can you read it off?
Yes, so in my notes, I did not take down the rest of the components. Some pickles, a crispy bun, but only at participating locations. I'm not sure if your location participated. There is a salted butter situation, which I'm assuming will be for the bun. And I think lettuce might factor in. I know the McChicken has mayonnaise on it. But obviously, I'm assuming you do not have mayonnaise on your sandwich.
Well, I believe there's a spicy mayo. There's an orange-looking mayo aioli type sauce on it. No lettuce. Maioli. This is toasted. When you're looking at this, you're really just kind of looking at a sandwich with the chicken, and the pickles and the mayo. Very simple.
Yeah, the ingredients in the spicy crispy chicken sandwich, according to McDonald's website, are the crispy chicken fillet, a potato roll, original spicy sauce, and a crinkle cut pickle.
Yep,
so you hit all four of those.
I can confirm all those.
The four horsemen of the apocalypse: crispy chicken fillets, potato rolls, original spicy sauces, and crinkle cut pickles, all found on this sandwich.
The question is, compete in the current chicken sandwich wars between the various fast food companies.
we've all heard a lot recently about Popeye's chicken sandwich.
Oh yeah, definitely still in the regular zeitgeist. um, but I feel like hasn't Wendy's or something put out a chicken sandwich too? Like everyone's trying to up the chicken sandwich game.
Yeah, I know Wendy's and Chick-fil-A straight up like had them
Yeah,
before the
yeah,
Popeyes business.
and
Popeyes came
Popeyes.
out with one,
Mhm.
and
No, you
that
go.
was 2 summers ago now.
Yeah. I just looked that up before this. That's crazy. That felt like a year ago.
Well,
Um,
because yeah, the past year has just kind of been like jelly. It's like it could be any amount of time.
Tom in the chat, not this Tom, different Tom in the chat is chiming in saying that Wendy's has had one. Same with Burger King. Um,
Wendy's, Burger King. Okay, yeah.
Tom, has Burger King always had one, or have they just rolled one out too? I will try this in a second.
I feel like Burger King might have always had one because Burger King, if there's one thing they will do, it's get funky with their menus. Like I remember my senior year of high school, they introduced the Whopper Burrito,
What was that?
which is a Whopper burrito. It wasn't great, um, but it was worth a shot. It was interesting, so I tried it. But that's about it.
Is it
But in any event,
exactly what it sounds like?
that component, it feels like the Whopper you would make if you like forgot to buy. It's basically yeah, like I forgot to buy bread, but I got tortillas in the house. That is a bread, and then they made a Whopper into the burrito.
It does kind of
Uh,
sound like that. Tom is chiming in just saying he believes it's a new sandwich, but that
Interesting.
Chick Fil A and Popeyes are still seen as the top tier.
That makes
Um,
sense. Yeah.
but yes, I will now try it. I'm gonna put my mic on mute so people don't hear me chewing.
I was going to suggest you do the opposite and turn your mic just all the way up on the sensitivity, and we become an ASMR show for a minute. For those of you that can't see, Dave's chewing. He's one bite in on the sandwich. Um, I'm not going to ask him to talk mid bite, but it looks like he's enjoying it so far. He's working his way through. He's probably like 3/4 of the way through this one. And there's a gulp. He's going for bite number 2. There he goes. There he goes. He's enjoying this.
Super crispy. Um, uh, the spicy sauce I do kind of like. I opted with the spicy one instead of the regular one just because I feel like I've had enough regular chicken sandwiches that I could have assumed what it was going to taste like. Um,
I like that approach.
but this is good. I normally don't like pickles, but I think they actually do a lot for the texture here.
Really?
Hmm. But yeah,
I'm glad to hear that.
this is pretty good. You can we can move on if you want, or unless you want to do a
So
few more
just
minutes on this.
if we could just get a quick exit survey on the spicy crispy chicken sandwich. Did it deliver on the spice?
I'd say like yeah, it's like a mild spice. It's not super spicy, but
It's enough to know it's there.
mhm.
All right, I like that. Did it deliver on the crisp?
Like a yes, but not as crispy as Popeyes.
All right,
If I,
that's a mark in favor of Louisiana Fast. And finally, did it deliver on the chicken and the sandwich?
yeah, overall combination very good. I kind of wish the chicken was just about like 10% crispier though.
All right, so there's some good stuff to build off of here with the McDonald's chicken sandwich. And now, as we move away from the discussion of chicken sandwiches to some basketball, um, things that technically fall under the umbrella, we're having All-Star festivities this week. Sunday is when all of it's going down. The draft for the All-Star teams is tomorrow night. We will be live after the draft with takes. Be sure to tune in for that. We cannot give an exact time because we do not know when it'll go off air, but it'll probably be like 10:30, 10, something like that.
Yeah, just
Maybe earlier.
keep an eye out on your Twitter feed on our Twitter feed, and we'll be posting something.
On our Twitter, which is hopefully part of your Twitter feed, if you are a good fan of basketball and all things sporting, which, why wouldn't you be? You're here. But in any event, in addition to the All-Star game, we are having, first off, let's go with a 3-point contest, Dave.
Okay.
We're having one.
Do you have them?
So the 3-point contest participants are Devin Booker, Steph Curry, Zach LaVine, Donovan Mitchell, and then a pair of Boston Celtics, Jason Tatum and Peyton Pritchard.
Wait, when was Pritchard added?
No, it's not Pritchard. It's Jaylen Brown. I just wanted to see if that would fly. But yeah, so those are the 6. The thing that jumped out to me from this list initially was just like, did Zach LaVine take this as a jab at the dunk contest?
Yeah, I don't know. I gotta say, with this one and the skills challenge, it really feels like, they went out to around the league trying to see who would be interested in this, and got mostly no's, and then they just asked the guys who are already coming for the All-Star game, would you want to do this? And they just got the first 6 guys that said yes.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, we'll get to some of the people who said yes outside of the All-Star pool when we get to the dunk contest and the skills challenge. But like, this one seems pretty chalky as far as just like, we tried to pick the 6 best shooters we could find, or like the 5 best shooters we could find, and the Donovan Mitchell, and we think we've got a field here.
Yeah, it's just like, I think you can tell they only went for the All-Stars, or non-All-Stars said no because of the fact that there's no like Joe Harris, there's no Duncan Robinson, there's no I don't know, even someone
is Novak.
Steve
There's
Novak.
No Steve Novak in this year.
Your what's Mikal Bridges shooting at from 3? Is he still shooting like 44% or something?
I think he's still over 40. I don't think he's had a catastrophically bad shooting night recently.
Like guys like that, the spot up, really good 3-point shooters. There's always a couple of them in the 3-point contest, and this year feels like, I mean, there's none. I mean, are any of those spot up guys? Can you read them off again?
Devin Booker, Steph, Zach LaVine, the 2 Jays from Boston, and Donovan Mitchell.
I feel like the only guy I can even picture spotting up for a 3 there is Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, I feel like the other guys either like have the ball in their hands enough or are just cutting pretty like Booker doesn't have it as much this year because Chris Paul's on his team, but he's cutting a lot. And obviously, like, Steph either has the ball in his hands or is cutting like a madman.
Yeah.
LaVine has the ball in his hands a lot. Yeah, I feel like Jaylen is probably the most spot-up-y shooter in here.
Tatum step backs, Mitchell has step backs, like.
Yeah.
It does make it interesting.
Like they're doing a lot of their work on the dribble.
Yeah, it does. It makes this type of competition really difficult to predict, because it's just kind of an awkward thing. It's you're shooting it off the rack, which guys never do. They don't practice, like you are not moving before. Sometimes it's going to take up too much time to take a dribble before, to get into some sort of rhythm. So it's kind of an unnatural shooting form for the competition.
Yeah.
Which makes it really hard to predict who will win. But I don't know. Has Steph won one? I forget.
Steph won one in 2015. Devin Booker won it in 2018. They're the only 2 people in the field that have won it. However, Zach LaVine and Donovan Mitchell have both won dunk contests before, and if either of them wins it, they would become the first person to win both a dunk contest and a 3-point contest.
That'd be fun.
Which, I mean, if that doesn't have you ready to watch all of this on Sunday, I really don't know what will. The possibility of Zach LaVine having 2 trophies from All-Star festivities would be pretty exciting.
It would. Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I have trouble really mustering excitement for the 3-point contest most years. It's probably, especially with the new additions to the skills challenge, it's definitely fallen to last in my preference of these 3 competitions. They got to do something. You know, like they should do some. Put the line back for one of these. Do it like enough guys shoot from 30 feet that there should be a rack from 30 feet.
Well, they do have now two spots between the elbow threes and the top of the key. There are two spots that are like 5 or 10, probably like 5 feet back from the line that they can shoot for, I think, 4 points or something crazy like that.
Oh, they can. Okay.
I think they only get one shot from there, but I know the total, because I remember thinking this was weird, but like the total that they could get now is 40, between like the 5 regular racks with 4 1-point shots and the money ball, and then 1 all money ball rack is 10 points. All right, hold on. We're doing math. So 5 regular racks is going to give you 20. That's 30 points right there. And then the all money ball rack, 4 regular racks is 16 plus 8 is 24. And then 34 from the all money ball rack. And then, so those 2 back slots are worth 3 points each that are basically like 30 plus footers. So they do have something to that effect. But it is still probably the least exciting all-star festivity for me. I think part of it's just because like the best this can go for a player is like he catches fire from 3 and lights it up. I don't know, 38 points out of a possible 40, something crazy like that. Which, if that happens in a game, is insane. It changes what you are watching from like, oh, I'm watching a basketball game where 10 players are playing to I am watching the Warriors play, but Steph Curry is scoring 60 points tonight. It's insane. Everyone I know needs to hear about this. If you do that in the 3-point contest, it's just kind of like, cool. You did like no one is defending you. You did this, which is what you're supposed to do here. Like everything has gone according to plan if you are lighting it up from 3. With that being said, the thing that I am excited for, which I feel like happens somewhat frequently, is someone just shooting awfully from 3-point, like just having a horrible showing. My accent really came out there when I said horrible, but someone just going out there and throwing out bricks.
I mean absolutely no shame or hate to him. I really like him as a player and a person, but if I had to predict anyone to do that, I feel like it's going to be Mitchell.
He was also the one that I had listed in my notes as like the guy who probably just gets outshined a bit. And like, again, no disrespect to Donovan Mitchell. He just seems like the one that might be the most likely for that to happen to. I think if we get into the game of like predicting winners, I don't think Steph's going to win it just because I really don't think he cares enough.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that idea again when we get to the skills competition. I think you, Dave, probably know which skills competition participant I am thinking of with that. But so I don't think Steph wins. Also, should be noted, the top 3 scorers from round 1 will go to round 2 and do the same thing. That's the other part of this that's hard to get excited.
There's no variation.
You really do the same thing twice in a row. Like if you're in a dunk contest, you have to do a different thing every round. And usually impressive than the last thing you did. Whereas in the 3-point competition, it's just like, cool, you did it. Now do it again.
Yeah. It's just like literally just individual skills. And like, the skills challenge is that too, but at least they make that a race, which can be fun. Whereas this is just like, I mean, wow, that guy hit 5 straight wide open 3-pointers. Pretty crazy.
Like we have video of JaVale McGee doing that in the gym against nobody. It's less impressive.
Tom,
so Dave, who do you have winning this thing?
Oh, I just wanted to add, Tom is submitting an idea in the chat. He said they should get Bol to defend the shooters in the 3-point contest.
I would actually like that because like it adds a shot creating element to it.
Yeah.
Like now, not only do you need to make the threes, you need to get open for them against like one-on-one against Bol, who knows you cannot shoot from inside the arc. So he can just stay up on you and be like, I'm moving laterally because you are not going back behind me.
Yeah. No,
I actually like that idea.
it's a great idea. What that also adds, I think, which is what the next thing I think the 3-point contest will add, because I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the All Star events this year get a little bit of hate because of the way they're doing it, and I hope that maybe that can
Yeah,
inspire them to change some things for next year. And the big test is off the dribble threes somehow,
I like that.
but somehow make it off the dribble so it's not just a guy picking it up from the rack. My prediction is going to win.
Hear me out here.
Oh, go for it.
We add a condition where where one of the other people in the contest defends you on your threes, and you have to choose who defends you.
That's fun.
Like, you add a mind games aspect to it. You add defense. Maybe you make some sort of point swing for the person you guard not making that many threes. So you can kind of like play a little risk reward of like, hey, I have this person ahead of me guarding me. If I make enough threes, I'll jump him. But if I don't make enough threes, I'll sink myself way too far and be out of it. Like, I think that adds a little gamification to it.
That's
But
a great idea.
we are as of yet not on the competition committee.
No,
So
we are
Dave,
not. But I like that idea a lot.
we have winning.
I'm going to go with my first instinct here and say Jaylen Brown. He's got a
I like that, actually.
pure, like, everyone here's got a pure shot. But like I said, I feel like he is the most equipped for this type of shooting. I think my second pick, I would go with Zach LaVine. He's not really, doesn't really do this type of spot up shooting, but I kind of feel it. I feel like it could happen. That's really no rational reason. I just kind of feel it.
Levine was also a pick of mine, just because I do think, like, I feel like he's going to care enough. Like, he's somebody that has shown, like, no, I'll show up for these sort of, like, all-star weekend type events and actually, like, try. And so, like, I think Levine probably will be there by virtue of being a good enough shooter and caring. And then I think Devin Booker was the other one that I picked for the finals, just because I also think he's somebody that's kind of like, no, I can make a little bit of a name here. I could, like, put another feather in my cap, be a 2-time 3-point champion. Like, that'd be something.
He's also going to be, I think, we'll have some Devin Booker, maybe some motivation, being an all-star replacement. You got to add some of these intangibles in sometimes.
That's another thing that we're going to get to with the skills challenge when we talk about all-star replacements.
Yes.
And actually, that feels like a very natural segue. Dave, let's talk about the skills challenge.
Yes, let's talk about it.
Skills competition.
Reigning NBA skills competition champion Bam Adebayo apparently rejected going back to it this year.
Really?
Yeah. That is a real story. It is not a fake story I'm falling for again.
Dave, what was the fake story that you fell for this week?
There was a story reported by 5 Reasons Sports, which is a Miami Heat, not just Miami Heat, a Miami-based sports website that has gotten a lot of flack for making up stories over the last couple of years. The thing is they were kind of right about us getting Jimmy Butler, and since then everyone is just like, well, maybe they're right. They've said we're getting Chris Paul, they've said we're getting Russell Westbrook, they've said we're getting James Harden. Everyone who's been available. They're one of those kind of sports news outlets. They reported the other day that Jimmy Butler was actually asked to be an all-star, named an all-star, but denied it because his teammate Bam Adebayo was not selected. This has been proven completely false. This did not happen. I did fall for it. I did think, wow, I love this team. Jimmy is so selfless. That probably says more about me than it does about 5 Reasons Sports or anything.
Does it say more about Heat culture that you, as a Heat fan, were so ready to believe that the culture was so strong that Jimmy would turn down an all-star invitation because Bam did not get one?
Yeah, I mean, that part too. Definitely how much I buy into the Heat culture too. But I will say, if that actually happened,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be like shocked. I don't
Yeah.
think of Jimmy Butler as someone who cares at all about the All-Star game.
Dave, whatever could give you that idea?
Yeah, good point. Um, so I just feel like, I could see Jimmy Butler getting named to the All-Star team and just being like, I don't really want. I mean, this happen? Being like, I don't really want to
We
play.
could see it happening because it has happened.
But in another scenario like this year, in this hypothetical scenario or this false scenario that didn't actually happen, him saying like, "Oh, I don't really want to play, but I'm gonna say that it's because my teammate didn't get in."
Yeah.
Which would be a good cover if this was a real story.
It's free goodwill with fans.
It is. So yeah, I did fall for that. But yeah, Bam is not going to be participating. Apparently, he said no. I'm actually very happy about that. He has looked completely exhausted on the court the last couple games. I think he needs a very nice week off. But who else we got here?
Well, I'll tell you, we have Chris Paul, we have Luka Doncic, we have All-Star New York Knicks Julius Randle, we have All-Star as an injury replacement Domantas Sabonis, we have Nikola Vucevic, and probably the most puzzling pick for any of the All-Star weekend festivities, and not as any disrespect to him, it was just kind of a name. Wait, what? Really? Robert Covington of the Portland Trailblazers is in the skills competition this year.
The only
Those
guy.
are the 6. Those are the 6. And we know that the title of skills champion of the NBA will be changing hands because Bam is not there. Dave, what jumps out to you about this field?
Well, I mean, it's very odd that Rocco is the one person here that, between this and the three-point contest, that was not an all-star.
Yep.
I did see one thing, though, that kind of explains this. At least this is a hypothetical explanation that people have had.
Okay.
The all-star game, some of the funds from the all-star game are going to historically black universities around Atlanta.
Oh.
And I'm pretty sure, I don't know where he went. I forget where he went, but Rocco is one of the few NBA players.
Rocco did go to an HBCU, though.
Yeah. He's one of the few that did, and people are like, maybe that's why?
Yeah, Rocco went to Tennessee State.
Okay, yeah. So, could be why. But at the same time, I don't really think of Rocco as a, all-around skilled, not a skills challengey type of player. If there was a stay in front of your man on defense challenge, that would be good.
Off-ball defense.
Yeah, off-ball defense challenge. But I always want to root for the bigs here. I think that was such a fun idea a couple years ago when they started adding the bigs to this competition. They always also seem a little bit more motivated by this than the guards. But, I don't think we know what the bracket looks like for this. So it's kind of hard to predict a final matchup. But I got to say, I really like Chris Paul and Julius Randle out of this bunch.
Well, I'm very glad that you said Julius Randle, because I also I think he's going to do very well in this. I think the issue I have with picking Chris Paul is that I don't think he's going to care a lot.
Now,
I think Chris Paul is showing up this weekend to play the last 6 minutes or however long of the All-Star game, and everything else is kind of gravy.
Yes, but you're leaving out just how ridiculously competitive Chris Paul is with anything.
That's a good point too.
Which is the only reason I'm putting this in, and I think he's a better shooter than Doncic. Because what kills people on this skills challenge every year is that three that they have to hit at the end. It's always that.
You miss one.
Yeah.
It makes it so much harder to win.
You see so many times where they do every part perfectly, they make the first pass perfectly, and then we get to that three, and it's just 5 bricks in a row for both guys.
They're just stuck down there.
Yeah.
It's funny, but they are just stuck down there.
Yeah. I mean...
I do... I think the funny thing about the skills challenge that I want to get going. Do you remember in the home run derby in baseball how anytime a player won, they would then have a worse second half of the year, and
Yeah.
everybody would be like, oh well, because they messed up their swing practicing for the home run derby. I kind of want that to be a thing that we talk about with either the skills challenge or the 3-point contest, where it's like, oh, like Donovan Mitchell messed up his 3-point shot because he was practicing for the 3-point competition. And like it would be nonsense because you're just taking threes in the 3-point competition, and like in the skills challenge you're just throwing passes. But it would be really funny to see like people who are paid to do this talk about that a lot.
It would. That would be great. I mean, that actually just reminds me of how Draymond Green's, his 3-point percentage, his career 3-point percentage has steadily gone down ever since he had that 3-point shootout with Kevin Hart. There's like a very noticeable difference, like a meaningful difference. Like there's like a legitimately like statistical difference between his 3-point percentage before that matchup with Kevin Hart and after.
Yeah, but I think what it sounds like you're saying is that Kevin Hart is taking Draymond Green's powers in a sort of Monstars style situation.
Yes.
Which I would be very excited to see happen.
Yes.
Mostly because like I do not think that Kevin Hart could really guard the 4 or the 5 for the most part. He might be able to give a couple of 3s and a couple of 2s some trouble, but I don't think he's got the switchability that Draymond does.
No. Sadly, we won't be getting any celebrity game this year where we could see some of that. Anything? I always forget to watch the celebrity game, I'll be honest. Remember when they did Horse?
Wasn't that a thing last year? Yeah. I think the celebrity game is like perfect to just a perfect I will see highlights on Twitter the next morning event. Mm-hmm. Like if you're watching it, it gets pretty dry when you have to be it gets pretty dry for the most part when it's like, oh, Barack Obama's Secretary of Education hit 3 threes in a row. But like if you're just scrolling through Twitter one morning and you see Quavo just flying down to the baseline to swat a shot from Rachel Demita into the stands, that's funny as hell.
That is funny.
And like Quavo posting on Instagram in like the spaces between every letter's font to be like, sorry, Rachel, with like icicle emojis on the outside. That's very funny. Like that, but that's the ceiling for what the celebrity game will give you.
Yeah.
I think.
Another is when very, very inexplicably Win Butler, the lead singer of Arcade Fire, is a really good basketball player and won the All-Star game. So, he's like 6'4". He got a ton of rebounds. Just like, really all-around tough hustle type of game. And then he went in for the post-game interview with ESPN and immediately started with making a comment about how America has a corrupt healthcare system, and then they pulled him off the mic.
Wow.
Really great.
But that was so much better than what I thought Win Butler was going to say on that post-game press conference.
Oh, yeah, it was great. He was like, they should, America really needs to look at Canada's healthcare system. And they were like, all right, Win, we're not talking politics today. Great game.
Wow. Imagine being the person that has to tell the lead singer of Arcade Fire to stick to sports. Like, that's a thing I don't think you ever thought you'd have to do in your job.
Yeah. I mean, the fun thing about those competitions are when it's just like some random person, random celebrity that you didn't know was good at basketball is very good at basketball.
Yeah. I might have bet Win Butler had never seen a basketball.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But no, he's 6'4", played in high school. Plays a lot of pickup, apparently.
So, with the celebrity game fresh in our minds, pivoting back to the skills challenge, you said Chris Paul and Julius Randle were your picks?
I think just because I'd go with Vooch, but he's kind of slow. Randle feels like the nice combination of speed and skill here. And Sabonis, I don't think is a good enough shooter. Same with Doncic. And who's the third guard? Yes. Oh, it's Rocco.
The third guard is there is no third guard. It's CP3, Luka, and Rocco.
Yeah, I don't really see how. I mean, maybe Rocco could win, but I don't see it.
I think this is the kind of thing where, like, more so than the 3-point competition or the dunk contest, like, Rocco could win.
Yeah.
Like, if you hit the three on the first try, you got a real puncher's chance.
Yeah.
As sort of like the last guy in the lineup. That being said, my picks in the finals of the skills competition, I have Julius Randle and Domas Sabonis, and I have Julius Randle beating Domas, and the Knicks Industrial Complex reigning supreme over All-Star Weekend. I think that about wraps it up for the skills competition. If you want to pivot over to the dunk contest, the dunk contest, this is the one that is always young players. Like, it's always guys that were not going to be all-stars anyway.
It's especially the last, like, 10 or so years.
Yeah, like, that's where they've really pivoted.
So, yeah, our dunk contest participants this year are the Knicks' own Obi Toppin.
There is no stopping them.
Portland's Anthony Simons, who apparently had a big campaign going to get him in the dunk contest, like Portland did, and Portland fans. And then Indiana Pacers' Cassius Stanley, who has not played a minute in the NBA. He's in the G League.
Has he been helping?
Actually, let me see if he's... Oh, wait, no, it wasn't that he hasn't played a minute. He has not dunked in the NBA.
That's interesting because in my research, I found a lot of Cassius Stanley dunk contest type of things.
Yes. So that's the thing. That's the interesting thing. So Cassius has played 8 games this year. Sorry about saying he played 0. He's in the G League right now, though. But, yeah.
Not the first time they've had a G Leaguer in the dunk contest.
Yeah. Last year they had Hamidou Diallo, who, like, hadn't really played much last year.
That's also cool.
And yeah, I always forget who's actually in the dunk contest. But Stanley has some insane highlights on, like, the first thing that you're gonna get as a suggestion on YouTube is dunks. He at Duke, I heard this, I think this was on the TNT broadcast last night. Duke, he had a higher vertical than Zion Williamson. So, yeah, I feel like everyone's kind of being like, who? To all these guys, including me. But, I mean, I knew everyone but Stanley here. But, I mean, Stanley seems like he probably has a pretty good shot here.
Cassius Stanley is actually my pick to win this, just because he seems like the one that has the most experience in, like, contest style atmospheres. Like, even if it hasn't been like national TV All-Star Weekend dunk contest, he does have like highlights on YouTube from like Nike camp in 2018 or 2017, and it's Cassius Stanley versus somebody else, and James Wiseman's in the crowd being like, oh my god, how did Cassius Stanley do that? So he's my pick to win this. Actually, the thing I noticed in my tape grinding for Cassius was that he seems to like to catch the ball as it's coming back towards him, whereas some other guys will do like a little pop-up shot and then catch it off a bounce going towards the rim.
Wait, can you explain that again?
Yeah, so when you're approaching for a dunk, if you want to add like a catching and then dunking element to it, you can basically do like the fake shot where it like rainbows up in front of you, comes down, and you run up, catch it as it's bouncing off the ground, and then go into your dunk. Or you can throw it, as Cassius Stanley did in some of the highlights I saw, either off the wall of the gym you're in so that it comes back towards you to catch it, or off the backboard so that it, again, comes back, coming at you to catch it. He seems to prefer that to the sort of self-lob deal.
I feel like that could result in some pretty nice dunks. Simons, I agree with you on Stanley. He was also my pick to win. I just feel like he had the most explosive dunks I could see, and you're right, he has the most experience like this. Obi's a good dunker, a good game dunker. Yeah. but I don't know if I see the raw type of athleticism that you see in someone like Stanley to pull off something like ridiculous.
Yeah.
I think he'll have solid dunks. And then Simons, I mean, I don't really get it. Like, I understand he has some big dunks,
Yeah.
but like, I mean, this isn't like Derek Jones Jr. Like he has some powerful dunks, but like a lot of guys can dunk well.
He's springy. I think he's only 1 inch shorter than Cassius Stanley, but somehow when you see him on the court, he looks slighter. So I think he might have like the little guy bump in the dunk contest, even though again he is 6'4". But yeah, I think he's somebody that will be able to at least like get up. It is funny. I do agree with you that Obi probably has a bit of a disadvantage in terms of like pure explosiveness. And it's funny because if you watch him during like a regular NBA game, he's one of the springier guys out there. Like you can tell he's got a little more like pop in his step than most players. But yeah, this is the dunk contest. You're going to be going up against like the top 1% of 1% of athletes.
Yeah, you need explosiveness. There needs to be a level of like, I don't even know what the word is. Like, it needs to be smooth, and it needs to be like, you need to be kind of agile too. Like,
yeah, there's coordination to it.
Yeah, and like frankly, just from an aesthetic perspective, it looks cooler when someone who is 6'5" dunks versus when someone who is 6'10" dunks.
Yeah,
most of the time.
Like Aaron Gordon broke that mold, but
yeah, he did.
For the most part, I agree with you. Like a little guy dunking looks cooler.
Yeah, but like even someone like Stanley, who is 6'5", like
yeah, Stanley's 6'5", Simon's 6'4".
That vertical, which I'm pretty sure was a 46-inch vertical that was measured at Duke, which is just ridiculous. It like, even though it doesn't make sense, it looks like a bigger distance they're jumping when they are 6'5" instead of 6'10". Like, everyone wants Zion in the dunk contest, and I'm sure he would have some great dunks, but I almost feel like Zion is, like, a little too stiff or something. A little too, like, something might be off.
In the dunk contest, just because of the end of last year's Rising Stars game, where it turned into an impromptu dunk contest.
Yes.
And Zion came, like, this close to doing I think it was, like, between the legs windmill off of a lob from Ja Morant. Like, it was, he got it all the way around, and it just bounced off the back of the rim and bounced straight up. But, like, it was so close to going down. But, I think a bigger dunker kind of aesthetically doesn't always look as cool.
Yeah. You got to be, like, the exceptions got to be, like Aaron Gordon or, like, Dwight Howard, like...
That's true, too, yeah. Like, Dwight, Blake, like, they'll win on showmanship.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know if that's really something that any of these guys will do, because, like, Dwight and Blake were established, like, superstars when they did that.
Yeah, there's more of a full body control there, too, I think. Like...
Yeah.
Like, someone, like similar to Obi. Like, Bam Adebayo was super athletic, but I don't think he'd... And can hammer down some very aggressive dunks. Don't think he'd be a good dunk contest participant. Like, mainly because he's almost always exclusively dunking with two hands, so it doesn't really seem like he's really going for the one-handed that much. But yeah, it's a very specific set of skills. I think you need to be good at this. But you always have the judges too, who could throw a wrench or two into things.
Are you thinking of any judges in particular, Dave?
No. I will say though, I mean, no offense to the guys here, and no offense to Stanley, who I've never seen really before, but I would probably, like, if Derek Jones or Aaron Gordon were in this competition, I would pick them over the other three easily. Also, this is only 3 guys. Normally this is 4. It's taking place during halftime. Like, there's a lot of ways that this is going to be kind of boring.
The halftime thing is the biggest worry for me, just because, like, you're simultaneously kind of nuking the flow of the All-Star game itself and rushing the dunk contest a little bit.
Yeah.
You're getting the worst of both worlds with that one. 3 guys, so maybe they're just like, yeah, we're going to do one round. Whoever has the highest dunk, like, highest score after 3 dunks wins. But you're still trying to fit like, I don't know, 10 pounds of dunk contest into a 5 pound bag of
Yeah.
halftime.
No,
Like I
exactly.
could see it going wrong.
And there's gonna even with the crowd and the audience, it's gonna be like, all right, when's the game starting again? Like,
Yeah. Like you're basically putting this in like the bathroom break spot.
yeah. Which just kind of feels unfair to these guys.
Yes.
I'm sure it'll still be fun, but
Yeah.
I think we like to, and fans in general like to critique these competition things because there seem to be very clear ways that you can make them more fun that they never
Yeah.
do.
And like I get why they're trying to put everything on Sunday this year. But like we didn't have any problems putting the 3 point contest before this. And we didn't have any problems with the skills competition going before this. Theoretically, like maybe the skills competition would be better going before this or going at halftime, although it takes longer. But like if it goes at halftime of the All-Star game, everyone in the skills competition, with the exception of Rocco, is in that game.
Hmm.
Whereas this, you're bringing 3 new players in. If you put this like first thing on Sunday, you can get those guys out of there quicker, which seems to be like a real goal of the
Yeah,
All-Star agenda this year.
it's a good point. I feel like maybe it's here is the dunk contest. Everyone's going to tune in. They want everyone to tune in anyway. That's the main
Yeah.
thing they're going to tune into. So maybe if you have the dunk contest at halftime, I don't know, more people tune into the All Star game. I don't know.
I feel like nobody that's tuning into the All-Star, or no one that's tuning into the dunk contest wasn't gonna tune into the All-Star game. You
Yeah,
know,
you're probably right. Um,
like either if you were gonna just watch the dunks the next day on Twitter, that's a different thing. But like if you're turning on your TV to watch it, you're probably gonna stay there for the whole thing.
yeah, no, that's true. Um,
That about. I mean, do you have anything else to add on the dunk contest?
I was just curious. Nothing on the dunk contest, but do you think there will be a section in the stands where it's Rocco and the three dunk contest guys, like the three guys that aren't in the game?
Yeah.
Yeah, just like watching the All Star game.
Because I think Rocco's like a good 10 years older than all of them.
Yeah,
Or he's like probably like 8 years older than Obi, but like 9 or 10 years older than Cassius and Anthony Simons. So like if there is, what are they going to talk about?
yeah. I don't know. Rocco's also played with like 7 of the All Stars at this point. I think he's played with. I mean,
Good
he's
point,
played
yeah.
played with Simmons and Embiid.
He's played with Dame. He's played with CP3. He's played with Harden. Has he not played with CP3 actually?
No, I think he did with the Rockets, right?
No, I think CP3 was already in
Oh,
OKC when he joined.
okay. And then Rocco's
Jimmy
path has just
in
been.
Minnesota. Well, actually, no. Jimmy's not an All-Star this year. Never mind.
Oh yeah, but I think they did play together. Um,
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
no,
he's played
wasn't
with.
Rocco traded for Jimmy?
Oh, he was. He
Yeah,
was. Yeah, him and Sarge.
yeah. Um, but yeah, no, he's played with 6 of the guys. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it is.
Maybe he can be on
Um,
the bench and kind of dap everyone up as they are subbed out or something.
maybe like LeBron or Kevin Durant can just use their 12th pick and be like, no, can you just give me Rocco to kind of like curate the vibes a little bit on the bench, make sure everybody's getting along. Like he seems like someone who clearly knows how to just talk to star NBA players.
Oh yeah. Um, but yeah, that's all I got on All Star Weekend. We'll have more tomorrow night after the teams are actually picked.
Yes.
Because we can't speculate really anything about that game
Nah.
until the teams are decided. I do think though, if I have any locks here, is that I think we can all say that Devin Booker and Chris Paul are probably both going to end up on LeBron's team.
Yes.
I would put those
We
as
need to-
locks.
the clutch sports not tampering to start with Devin Booker.
Do we know who is picking the Durant team? Is it Durant?
It's Durant.
Okay.
I think it's Durant. They're both going to pick 4 starters for their team.
Hmm.
And then I assume Team Durant is just going to sub someone into their starting lineup, which I don't know exactly how you handle that part of it. Because, like, if it's just a front court spot, which Durant is a front court player, you could theoretically sub in any of them.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm not sure how you do that in a way that, like, not that I care about like the competitive integrity of the All-Star game, but in a way that preserves that sort of like, we're being fair to both All-Star teams.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the best way to do it is, just give it to the guy who's next in line votes wise
Yeah, that would make sense.
to not make it too complicated. And it's probably going to be aligned skill wise anyway.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But yeah, that's all we got on that. Now we're going to head to our main segment tonight. Tom, do you want to introduce it?
Yes. So we have talked a few times on this show about
starting. We got some, not breaking news, but just some feedback in the chat. Tom has said he's pretty sure that Tatum's getting subbed in for Durant as one of the starters.
That would make sense.
Thank you, Tom.
I think so. Yeah, he probably would be one of the next vote getters up. But in any event, we have talked a lot about on this show. Also, thank you, Tom. We've talked on this show about like starting all this because we are fans.
Mm-hmm.
Like we talk about this because we enjoy it, and we first became fans of two teams in particular. I was a Knicks fan. Dave became a Miami Heat fan. He has had better luck than I have. We don't need to discuss that part of it, but we both are fans first, and as part of that discussion, we received a suggestion, wasn't it, Dave?
Yes, it was from Tom.
Hey, way to go, Tom. But we received the suggestion to just talk about who some of our favorite players have been from both of our favorite teams, just to give a little background into like our lives as fans and how we came to this point. So with that in mind, we prepared lists of our favorite 5 players. I have prepared 5 New York Knicks. Dave has prepared 10 Miami Heat players. Dave, tell the people about your lists. Plural.
So I wanted to make my list in more. So I think everyone who is watching this knows how old I am. But I've only been watching the Heat since like 2007, 2008, really. So I'm not picking, and I'm sure this is the same for Tom. Like, I'm not picking Alonzo Mourning. Tom isn't picking Patrick Ewing. Like, we didn't grow up. We didn't grow up watching like some of like the franchises, all-time great players. Obviously, the Heat Knicks had a pretty fun rivalry at the end of the '90s, in the playoffs.
And in the early 2010s.
Yes,
even if it was entirely one-sided.
But it was something.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make my list more interesting. I kind of last minute changed what I was going to do. I'm just not going to list these 4 people in my top 5 because these 4 are the obvious top 4, and I can't think of any other way to put them. Other thing to do this with, and it wouldn't be interesting because I'm sure these are the first 4 people that anyone would guess of someone who is like the Heat since 2007 or 2008. So I'm going to run through them very quickly before we get to our actual lists.
Please.
It's a very simple list. The 4 are Udonis Haslem, Chris Bosh, LeBron James, and Dwayne Wade. I'm not going to do any specific stories about any of them except for Wade, which is just that. He is the reason I got into basketball. My first basketball memories ever really or NBA memories, I should say, are watching the 2006 finals with my grandpa, and seeing Dwayne Wade completely take over that series, like in a pretty ridiculous way. Getting to the line an obscene amount of times, just attacking the paint at will. He's definitely kind of influenced the type of basketball player I like as well. I've definitely mentioned a lot on this podcast how much I love players like Jimmy Butler, like a DeMar DeRozan type, people like that, guys who don't shoot threes but are really good playmakers and really good at getting to the foul line and to the rim. And that's definitely because of Wade, and that's the player that Wade was. Growing he was a player felt like I was able to grow up with. He was on the Heat for his entire career. There was never a time where he wasn't on the Heat. Don't double check that information. But yeah, his retirement tour a couple years ago was a very emotional time for me. Very upset in his last game, but his last game here was against the Nets. Heat were out of the playoffs at this point, but he got a great triple double in his last game on like awful efficiency, but I didn't really care. And his final assist to get that triple double was to Udonis Haslem, which is very poetic, and it was a Haslem a like 15-footer from the elbow, which I've seen him make a million of those throughout his career. Haslem, another guy I've been able to grow up with. Haven't really seen him play in like 5 years, I feel like. But I love his presence as an assistant. What?
Doing a lot of bench yelling, though.
A lot of bench yelling, and I loved how much time the finals broadcast. It was really great to see the respect given to him. I think it's so cool that this guy who is an undrafted player in 2003 has been now with the team for 18 years, has barely played for the last 4, is a de facto assistant coach pretty much, but is such a defining part of the Heat culture. I don't think the quote-unquote Heat culture exists without Udonis Haslem.
I don't know enough to like definitively say this, but Udonis Haslem, just by virtue of having a 15-year career or like 17-year career at this point, has to be one of the best undrafted free agents in like modern basketball. Right?
Oh, definitely. I'm sure he's got the longest career. I
assume there are like some players in like the 1960s and 70s who were undrafted just because of like we didn't have a draft or it was like 8 teams.
Yeah.
But like post Magic Bird, let's say, I feel like he's got to be up there.
Yeah, I'm sure he is. I don't know the exact numbers there, but I'd bet he's the longest tenured undrafted player. He's the longest tenured guy in the league who stayed with one team. At the moment, I think second is Steph Curry. So yeah, and then I don't really need to say anything about LeBron. I mean, it was one of the happiest days of my life when I was 13 or 14, I forget exactly, and he announced he was coming to the Heat. And then Bosh has become a big fan favorite, I think, ever since he stayed with the Heat after LeBron left. There was that short period of time where people thought Bosh was going to go to the Rockets. There was a miscommunication on one of like a Woj or Mark Spears or someone tweet about him going to the Rockets that didn't actually end up happening. And he was all set to be the guy because Wade was way too injured to be the guy post LeBron. He was getting all set to be the guy. He was gonna be. He had a great first half of the season where he's averaging 22, 23, and 10, being the number one guy on a good Heat team, where we were playing pretty well, and then the blood clots happened. And then the same thing happened the next year. We had a great start, and then the blood clots happened again at almost the exact same time right before the All-Star break. And so I haven't seen him since, but he stayed a good part of the organization. And, I just really respect him as a person, and especially just getting – I always respect the third guy out in these big three scenarios because they just – it's not easy. Him and Love, like – yeah. Those are the 4 I'm not including in my list because it's not interesting, and I'm sure that is the same top 4 that any Heat fan that is my age has. So,
right.
Yeah. Tom, please tell me your number 5. Or tell me, actually, first, how'd you go about...
You want me to go 5 through 1, or would you like me to go 1 through... I'll go 5 to 1.
Yeah, 5 to 1.
Would you like to go all through the list, or do you want to alternate pick?
Let's alternate. Then I want to hear if there was any methodology you had here.
So the thing about picking your 5 favorite New York Knicks players from the past 22 years is that you're picking from a lot of bad teams. And the good teams that the Knicks have had, which is probably like two or three, um, and this year would make it four. Although even then, like we don't know how like really good they're going to be. But the good teams the Knicks have been defined by like two or three players, maybe. So it's you get into like this weird gallows humory, like yeah, to watch line of thinking. So
So
it was definitely like
your
yes,
line of thinking, how much were you valuing fun to watch versus the organization versus their tenure? Did it matter if they were only in the team for 6 months or?
my main criteria, I guess, was like trying to figure out who has brought me the most joy
Mm.
to like to have in my life as a Knicks fan. Because like even if someone is just playing for the Knicks and you really enjoy watching them play basketball, you could also enjoy like I don't know, and we will talk about this with my number one, but yelling at other people about the fact that they are actually still good and can still be a rotation guy on a playoff team and are actually the second best player on the Portland Trailblazers right now. But I digress. Um, but yeah, like there is that sort of like social aspect of like, no, I'm a Knicks fan, and like yeah, you can say we suck, but I'll find like these little things that I'm gonna enjoy. And with that, actually, I'll segue into my first pick. Raymond Felton
Oh
is
boy.
my most joyous Nick to have ever had in my life. This is so Raymond Felton, unremarkable tenure as a New York Knick. I want to make that very clear. Like he was here for some lean years, but the reason that I have Raymond Felton on my top five is because when I started college, my roommate and I played an insane amount of NBA 2K together.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and there was a game where we played the Knicks versus the Bulls because my roommate Alex was a Bulls fan, and Raymond Felton had an awful game. Yes, this is me playing as Raymond Felton, but Raymond Felton had an awful game. Just wasn't making any, like blowing open layups, wasn't making shots. It was horrendous. And after that game, I was like, he was the worst player in this game. I'm going to say it as many times as I can. And it kicked off a tradition that became known as the Ray Felton Award that we would give out to the worst performing player on the losing team of every 2K game we played against each other.
That's fun.
And like that tradition held for probably like 4 years, 4 or 5, yeah, because like we started freshman year, and it's an insane amount of joy that Raymond Felton brought into my life by ultimately being like a pretty unremarkable point guard. So for that, Raymond Felton, I thank you, and I apologize for yelling at your video game likeness. It wasn't you, it was me.
I'm just looking at Raymond Felton's tenure. He was with the Knicks for 2 years. Over that time, looks like he averaged around 11 points a game. But I'd say the most notable thing here, and probably why he was very memorable to you. I mean, he started every single game he played as a Knick.
Every game.
Every game. And this
the Knicks love starting their single point guard every time they can.
And this was the 2012, 2013, and 2013, 2014 season. Correct me if I'm wrong. One of those seasons is the very good Knicks season, right?
Yes. So 12-13, you have Tyson Chandler fresh off of a Defensive Player of the Year win in 11-12. You have like pretty prime Melo. I think he put up like 27 a game that year. You have Amari is hurt at this point for the most part, but like he's in and out of the lineup, and when he's in, he's playing well. And they were really good. You have Jason Kidd, a couple years removed from that Mavericks season where he like weirdly became a sharpshooter. They were, I think, 54 wins, and they lost in the second round to the Pacers, who like then pushed Miami to the brink, as I'm sure you remember.
Yeah.
I think they pushed them to a 7-game series. But yeah, no, like that was a really good Knicks team. And Raymond Felton, despite being maybe not the most jumping off the screen player, was a steady part of that.
Yeah, I mean,
and like
being
for a team where your two best players are a 3 and a 4, like a point guard like Raymond Felton kind of does have a pretty important role to play in terms of just facilitating for both of them.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like just being the starting point guard on a good team just does say a lot about you. Can you remember any big Raymond Felton highlights from his tenure?
Dave, Dave, no, no, I can't. It's Raymond Felton. No.
No, that's a good pick though. I feel like he's like the classic like. I mean, he was a point guard for a very long time. Played 13 years in the league.
Yeah.
You don't play 13 years in the league if you're bad.
By all metrics, he's had a good career.
Oh yeah.
So, who is your number 5 most favorite player to watch ever as a Miami Heat fan?
So my list is kind of leaning. Is tough. I have a lot of emotional attachment to the last 5 years of the Heat, the post LeBron Heat. Yeah. I have a lot of attachment to because of the fact that they, it can be more fun. And I know this is saying a lot. This doesn't maybe say a lot coming from someone who is able to watch like a big three team and have that be your favorite team. But right. it can be more fun to root for the underdog.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It can get exhausting to root for the team that everyone calls like the villains and who everyone also expects to win. Because when you are expecting to win, every loss hurts. Whereas when you're not expected to win, you can have way more fun with it, I think, as a fan. And that definitely happened with me in the post-LeBron years. So my list leans towards them, but we can talk about some honorable mentions from the previous era later. But my number 5, I'm going to go with Josh Richardson. Josh Richardson was my favorite player in the Heat for a good 3 years. He was a second-round pick. He was the 40th overall pick in the 2015 draft. And kind of came out of nowhere and was like our 2 draft picks that year were Josh Richardson and Justice Winslow, and kind of out of nowhere Josh Richardson became the better despite Justice being the 10th overall pick. Josh,
I wanted the Knicks to take Josh 4th overall that year.
Oh yeah.
I wanted the Knicks to take it just where they took Kristaps that year.
Yeah, I mean very famously I think it was the Hornets who were ended up taking Frank Kaminsky at the 9th pick, but the Celtics had offered the Hornets. Apparently, Danny Ainge offered the Hornets 4 first-round picks for that 9th pick because they were that enamored with Justice Winslow. Justice will not be making my list, but I do really like him, and I'm glad he's playing well with the Grizzlies.
Same, yeah.
But yeah. Josh Richardson was like one of the first examples in the post Big 3 Heat of the kind of finding a random guy that ends up being a good rotation piece thing, which is what the Heat, this like era of the Heat, I think has been kind of defined by. He was with us for 4 years. He kind of tricked everyone into thinking he was a good shooter, which I thought which in retrospect is very funny. He shot 46% from 3 in his rookie year and hasn't touched that since. It's just like not even been close. The closest it was 37%.
It's like still not an awful shooting year, but it's not 46.
Yeah. And he was woefully miscast in his last year in the Heat as our primary offensive option or our second offensive option after Goran Dragic. Which didn't go very well. He shot horribly from everywhere. But he averaged 17 points and 4 assists a game and 4 rebounds a game and was always guarding the best player on the other side of the floor. And all of that led us to be able to sign and trade for Jimmy Butler. So I loved him when he was here. Great attitude type of guy, just so likable. I really miss the team that was like Bam, Justice, Winslow, Josh Richardson, and Derrick Jones Jr. were all best friends. Very wholesome times. And yeah, he's my number 5. And now he is just like a, Luka's teammate. They always, every time the Mavs play on ESPN or TNT, they're always like, Josh Richardson's like an A-plus role player, but like I don't know, he hasn't really been that great this year. He's no Mikal Bridges, but getting popular again only because like those broadcasts are desperate to find like a co-star for Luka.
Yeah, and like, well, we can talk about Kristaps maybe not really filling that role as well as people thought he might. But yeah, do you want to give your fourth now, and we can do like a snake draft kind of deal?
Ooh, yeah. You're gonna laugh at my fourth.
You're gonna laugh at my fourth too. Let's do this.
Okay. What this guy has in common with Josh is he played pretty much the same years with the Heat, and he was an instrumental part of the year that the Heat started the season 11-31, and then ended the season 31-11, ended up 41-41 on the year, and it was just amazing. We went on a 13-game win streak during that, and that guy is Tyler Johnson. Tyler Johnson's on this list for a lot of reasons. One, dude, like, just has an insane look to him. Like, he has, like, right now he looks even crazier with his like super shaggy long hair. He's got he's missing a tooth. He has the incredibly patchy facial hair. Had an awful like bowl cut type haircut for a while, but he was literally the exact cliche definition of like the works his ass off white player. Like he fit every single part of that cliche to a T. He would dive for offensive rebounds. He would jump for offensive rebounds. He would dive to get loose balls, winning every 50-50 play. Slowly making his way through the rotation to the point in 2016-2017 when he was our sixth man, played 30 minutes a game off the bench, averaged 14 points a game off the bench on good shooting splits. Yeah, he was good. This isn't crazy. He was good for a year. That year...
Oh, yeah, that's why the Nets gave him, like, the big money deal, right?
Yes, exactly. So he averaged 14 points per game on pretty good efficiency at age 24 off the bench. Mm-hmm. So then we got the Nets signed him to... Let's get the contract. It was a 4-year, $50 million deal. That was, as they call it, a poison pill contract, which was the first 2 years, $5 million a year. The second 2 years, $20 million a year.
No.
The Heat actually never paid Tyler the $20 million. They traded him before that happened. But it was a situation where the Nets offered that contract, and Tyler was a restricted free agent. The Heat matched because they really liked him. And it brought one of my favorite Heat-related headlines and stories, which was, I think the exact quote was, Tyler Johnson apparently vomited when hearing about his $50 million contract.
God. You're going to have an extreme reaction of some kind if you hear that someone's going to give you $50 million.
Yeah, I don't think he even believed it. And I'd like to... This is going to be a common theme with my guys. Tyler Johnson, he was undrafted. Another good example of the Heat kind of finding a random role player. He hasn't really found great success outside, but you'll see him play spot minutes with the Nets right now, and I like watching him play still. He's a good enough three-point shooter. This year he's shooting 41% from three. He's a good enough three-point shooter that you could see him. He could score 9 points in a quarter in a playoff game on just like 3 straight wide open threes, and everyone's like, "Oh, Tyler Johnson just swung the quarter." Yeah.
I feel like the Heat sneaky, like, they go after this kind of like very odd looking figure. It might just be because I am thinking of Birdman, Kelly Olynyk, and Tyler Johnson, but like there's an eclectic bench player on every Heat team.
There really is, yeah, and he'll be coming up next round.
Oh, hell yeah! Okay, that's a great little sell. Number 4 for the Knicks is a tough one for me. because like you can kind of come at it from a lot of different angles. Like if you're a fan of just weird stuff, you could be like, yeah, Steve Novak, or yeah, J.R. Smith, and you'd be within your rights to do so because, like, again, there's not really that many great New York Knicks in the 21st century. Like there were some dark days, and the Steve Novak championship belt celebration when he made a three was a lot of fun, especially for a 13-year-old Tom who would then go into school the next day and play basketball at recess. But if you want to celebrate like actually good basketball players that we really believed in and thought like, hey, this is real, you could pick like Stephon Marbury, you could pick Kristaps, and you'd be okay to do that too. Because like there were a couple of Knicks teams where we still had some faith. I'm not putting Porzingis here.
Okay.
I'm not putting him in my top 5. It's not because of any lingering bad feelings, because I don't have any. Like the Knicks team that he asked to be traded from was a very different one than the weirdly like goodwill building Knicks team that we have now. That being said, I am gonna wind up going J.R. Smith, and this is a very anecdotal one, but like in the year after, basically in the Linsanity era, I think in like the 6th or 7th game that the Knicks played in that run, they played the Dallas Mavericks, and it was like everything was clicking. J.R. Smith, it was his first game back from China, where he had been playing during the lockout and like had a little bit of a tough time getting out of his contract over there. And like I watched it, the Knicks came back from a 20-point deficit to win, to pull themselves to 500 on the season. But it was like, oh, this is a 500 that's trending really upward. And J.R. Smith is a huge part of that. I think J.R. Smith threw down like an insane dunk in the middle of that game. He had a couple of really impressive dunks in his Knicks tenure.
The Knicks dunk I remember of him the most was the alley-oop when he caught it at like his midsection with one hand and somehow reversed it up. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the iconic J.R. Smith, I think. Well, aside from forgetting what the score was in the finals game. But like, yeah, JR was a lot of fun to watch because like you really don't know what you're going to get, but when the good is going, it's really good with JR.
Oh yeah.
And also he's just like a very likable guy. Both in his younger days when like we kind of just, I don't know. He's been a very likable guy. There's that iconic photo of him and AI shooting pool at halftime of a Nuggets game, which should tell you like all you need to know about young JR. But then also like in his older age, like he has shown a lot of heart, I feel like, very publicly.
Definitely. He seems like a good guy. And I think those types of like feast or famine, insanely athletic players are always going to bring a lot of joy as a fan, because when they're on, it's going to be such an electrifying like 5 or 6 minutes.
So yeah, JR is my number 4. Who's your number 4? No,
you
go
number
3.
Yeah, shouldn't you go again?
I go number 3.
Yeah,
I should. Okay, yeah, that's on me. I got a little bit. I let the snake draft me. My number 3 is Amari Stoudemire.
I was wondering if he was going to be there.
At one point on this show, did say that the 35 game stretch where Amari was playing like an MVP in a Knicks uniform was a better time to be a Knicks fan than Linsanity. But I am going to put Amari at 3, and I think we can all kind of deduce that Jeremy Lin will be in my top 2. But yeah, no, Amari Stoudemire was like at one point an MVP level player in a Knicks uniform. That was really cool. That does not happen often for us. And it was really fun to watch. Now, like, the Knicks went and got Carmelo Anthony shortly thereafter, and kind of, like, things didn't quite fit together as well after that. But we always will have that initial run. And we will also have, like, one of the great all-time Knicks stories, which is Amari Stoudemire punching a fire extinguisher. Sorry, not a fire extinguisher. Punching, like, the glass in front of a fire extinguisher after losing a playoff game, I believe it was to the Heat, and being out for the rest of the series. I think the Knicks were actually up. No, they were, I think, tied in the series when that happened. And yeah, that, like, there's something about a player doing something quintessentially Knicksy that will make him rise up my list in this exercise. Like, did he and Melo fit together great? No, but that's not his fault. He was still an incredibly fun player to watch who made some insane plays, And he's the only player on this list that could also, I believe, qualify for your list because he was a Miami Heat player at one point.
Technically. um,
In name.
he was on the team for. Ooh, you were giving me that whole spiel, and I forgot for a second that he was on the Heat. He was on the Heat in 2015, 2016. He played 52 games for us. Oh, yes, and he started 36 of them somehow. Averaged 6 points. But yeah, that's a good pick. Yeah, Murray. Yeah, I mean, he's got to be one of those quintessential, if he was always healthy, type of players.
Oh, absolutely.
He would have, his legacy would have been so much greater.
Another great, like, if he came into the league today kind of player, because, like, hand in hand with the health would be, like, I feel like we're a lot farther along with medicine, like, specifically in sports than we were 17 years ago when he came into the league, 18 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, with that also, though, like, the game has changed a lot, and I feel like he could be a very cool, I don't know, like, we throw around the term small ball five a lot, but I feel like he could play that role really well. Just a very fun player to watch in, like, a faster paced league than was originally there. And obviously he played on a fast team with the Suns, but I think it would be interesting to see him in today's NBA.
Yeah. He would. I think he would fit very well. I mean, in a lot of ways, he kind of reminds me of someone like Bam. Like, I feel like they're kind of similar, like in the way that both of them can run the floor. As big men, definitely similar players. I wish like Bam had like the finesse that Amari has. That would be.
Actually watching Amari Stoudemire highlights this morning and going like, I would love if Obi Toppin winds up looking anything like this.
That's a good,
just the ability to face up and like Giancarlo said on when we had him on, like look at someone and be like, I'm faster and stronger than you, and you're about to learn that I am both of those things, and then pass them.
Yeah. Okay,
so you're number 3.
Yeah. I don't know why I said what I said before. I keep kind of going back and forth here. I'm going to do a quick 3-way tie for a third and a half, which is definitely which is cheating. But I just want to get these guys mentioned before I go with what I think are going to be my obvious top 3. And my 3-way tie here is Mario Chalmers, who was just really a delight of a person and of a player. You were always going to get a random game where Mario Chalmers hit like 6 threes and had a couple great steals and maybe a nice dunk on a fast break, and somehow he got up for the dunk that would electrify the big 3 like bench more than any other player doing anything. He was a punching bag of the media, of the team itself for a while, but he was on the team before the big 3, and he was on the team after the big 3, which I feel like people don't remember, and was actually a big part of the Heat culture for a lot of that time, and left, got traded to Memphis, and like his career completely fizzled out. I think he's playing overseas now. But yeah, he brought me a lot of joy. Other tie here is James Johnson, who was my quirky bench player that I was about to mention. James Johnson. Black belt James Johnson. Not quite the J.R. Smith type, but similar in the sense that every so often you're going to get a ridiculous dunk out of him. My favorite James Johnson anecdote is the fact that some time ago on the Heat subreddit, someone pointed out that a lot of the same, I think I mentioned this to you before, a lot of the same sets that Eric Spoelstra ran with LeBron, he was putting James Johnson in the LeBron position in the post Big 3, as that sort of point forward. Eric Spoelstra loved James Johnson. He was the type of guy that I'm sure you've had guys on the Knicks like this too, where seemingly he had no leash on him whatsoever. He could do 5 boneheaded things wrong in a row, and it's just like he's going to be out
Yep.
there no matter what, because he's a high effort
Yep.
type of guy. Um, and then my other one is gonna be I'm gonna go with Mike Miller, almost exclusively for that huge finals game where he hit six threes,
Like this.
and
Yep.
has an kind of a iconic moment in Heat history of hitting a three with no shoes on, and someone a teammate is I forget exactly how the clip goes, but a teammate is holding his shoes. He goes to his spot on the corner. He hits the wide open three for his like 6-3. Someone tosses him. But yeah, those are a quick three before I get into my real top three. And at number three, I'm going to put Jimmy Butler. I almost put him higher than this, but he's been on the team less than the other two guys above him, so I felt like that was fair.
Yeah, that
But
makes sense.
I don't need to go on too long about Jimmy. He brought me one of the greatest highs I've ever had in like sports history, when he single-handedly beat LeBron and the Lakers, when Bam Adebayo and Goran Dragic were both injured and had a nearly 40-point triple-double, just absolutely like taking control of the game, looking like the best player on the court. After I was so down in the dumps because I was like, oh, everyone's gonna think we stink, like we're gonna get swept. Everyone's saying like this finals is a joke, and Jimmy made it not a joke, made it a 6-game series.
Oh yeah.
And my favorite individual moment there is in that game when he had the 40-point triple double and the Heat were having a great first half. Him yelling to LeBron in response to something LeBron had said either earlier that game or the game before. He'd gotten like a big and one and then hit the free throw, and then he was walking back down the court and was yelling at LeBron, "You're in trouble." I mean, it doesn't get cooler than that. Like, just one of the best moments. So yeah, Jimmy Butler is my number three. I should also just say, like, and I think this would make sense to a lot of people. I mean, last year's Heat team is my favorite Heat team ever. So, I mean, it's an easy pick.
Wow.
They were the underdogs. They made it to the finals against all odds. Like,
Yeah.
so that's going to be a big bias here.
Oh, absolutely. Do you want to give your number two as well?
Yeah, my number two is Bam Adebayo, who, and you might think like, yeah, Bam is really good, but every team kind of has like a good young player. Thing is, the Heat don't
Yeah.
have good
Well,
young players. The Heat are a veteran, have for the last 15 years, as long as I've known them, are a veteran team. Their only good young player that made an all-star team over the last 15 years that they drafted are Dwayne Wade and Bam Adebayo. No one else. The Heat don't draft stars well. They draft well. They're able to get guys in like low positions and turn them into quality players, but very rarely have I had in my life a young Heat player that I'm like, this guy can be an all-star. This guy can be really good. I thought it would happen with Justice Winslow. It didn't. I thought maybe it could happen with Josh Richardson. I thought when I was 10, I thought it could happen with Michael Beasley. And Michael Beasley, honorable mention on both of our lists, I'm sure.
Mr. 11 of your grade.
But yeah, Bam Adebayo's again a specific moment here, but his Game 6 performance against the Celtics last year, where he took over the game and was the best player on the court, when the court also had Jimmy Butler, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown. The block, that whole series, I think he was the best player in that series. I don't think that's being crazy.
No.
I think that's a very reasonable thing. And his all-around versatility. What'd you say?
The rise of Bam last year was fun to watch. I'm just thinking this now because, like, if you said at the beginning of last season, oh, yeah, he's going to be the best player on the court in an Eastern Conference Finals game, but the Heat win that has Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum in it, like, all of the city of Boston would have yelled you into the ground.
Oh, yeah, it would have been a
But
ridiculous
it
take.
came true.
Yeah. his evolution as a player from literally just a run and gun center, like the most stereotypical, like he can get rebounds and he can dunk center, and go up for alley oops, to a guy that can ISO, can average almost 6 assists a game, and can be the focal point of the offense. As I said a couple weeks ago on our All-Star pod, to be one of the more unique big men in the league, in that area with like guys like Jokic and Sabonis and Randall, these big guys who can average 5.5, 6 assists a game. Just, and on top of all that, just a great guy. Like, you never hear a bad word about Bam. He is
Incredible.
Yeah. He is very friendly with a lot of big players in the league for some reason. He is really close with his mom. Like, there's just like a lot of admirable qualities about him. I mean, just a couple weeks ago, he went on a 7-game road trip that lasted like 12 days. First thing he said in the press conference when he was asked about how he feels about going home, he was like, "I'm excited to see my mom." Like, it's just, he's such a wholesome guy. Like, on top of all the basketball skills, impossible not to root for him.
That is nice.
Who is your number 3?
My number 2 is Jeremy Lin. This is, like I said, this list was made primarily based on how much joy these players brought to my life. And in probably, like, I don't know, 2 weeks of basketball, Jeremy Lin brought me more joy than any Knick in the 21st century has. Like, we all know what Linsanity means. We know how special that run was. Like, I really can't say too much beyond the game-winning 3 against Toronto, where he ISO'd from the top of the key on, I forget who the defender was, but drilled a 3 in the guy's face. Mike Breen gave it the classic bang call, because the Knicks have the luxury of having Mike Breen on their local broadcasts. But no, Jeremy Lin was, like, for a few weeks and like a couple months, he was on top of the world. And on top of that now, like, even just this year, he's become like a very vocal activist against racism that he has experienced in the G League. So, like, he's also doing incredible work as an activist. But, like, on both of those fronts, like, he's an incredibly easy guy to root for still. And when he first came into stardom, like, he was sleeping on his friend's couch a couple weeks before that Linsanity started. Sorry. Like, he was just somebody that was really cool to see make it. And it's the kind of story we don't really get a lot of with the Knicks, because it's usually the alternative, where it's like, oh, we'll surely be good now, and then we're not. If it's not that, then it's, oh, well, what's up?
I was going to say, I feel like it's the type of story we don't even get very often in the NBA at all. Like, can you think of a comparable 2 weeks or 2 to 3 week stretch as Linsanity?
Like, I can't, because no one really did it out of nowhere in the way that Jeremy Lin did. Like, he was literally from nowhere. He played at Harvard and, like, became a superstar overnight. So, I mean, I can expand on that further, but the big, like, Linsanity, it was insane.
It's the only person that either of us named so far that has an entire, like, era of basketball named after them.
Yes.
Even if it's just a couple weeks, like,
it counts.
Yeah. I mean, it was Linsanity for a reason. That was crazy. I love going back and watching those highlights, because there was a lot of things that felt like I don't see why this is unsustainable. Like, ridiculous shot making obviously is, like, not super sustainable. But a lot of the other things he was doing didn't seem that crazy. But yeah, just, unfortunately bad injury luck, and just kind of having, like, a smaller frame that kind of gets hunted on defense a little much, I think is why his career ended a little earlier than people would have expected. But I mean, he had that. Did he play with Harden, right?
Yeah, he was on the Rockets for a couple years.
Yeah. He ended up going around a lot. He played with Harden. He played with Kobe.
Yeah, kind of like a weird Forrest Gump style trip through the NBA.
Really, yeah, really. Um, but yeah, that's a good pick. I assumed he
Uh,
was going to be on your list.
is it time for me to give my number one?
Yes.
My number one is Melo. Uh, like probably the best basketball player to wear a Knicks jersey since Patrick Ewing. I don't think that's that hot of a take. Like, I'm sure I'm forgetting some. Like, I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody that came through at like the very tail end of their career or something. But like, we got like pretty, if not prime Melo, we got pretty close to prime Melo. I think he won a scoring title when he was with the Knicks,
He did.
and like, yeah, like he was an incredibly fun player to watch. He made the team feel more relevant than they had at any point in my Knicks fandom when he first got traded to the Knicks. Like even just I remember sitting in middle school art class and like having watched Sports Center telling my friends like Melo said he's not going to sign with anybody if it's not the Knicks, and like the entire table was just like, oh, like it was a big deal that Melo wanted to come to the Knicks. Now, obviously, I think we got a little bit ahead of ourselves with expectations. Like, he's not necessarily a LeBron or a Kawhi Leonard, where it's like, yeah, this one guy will carry you to a championship in the NBA. But he didn't need to be that. He was Melo. He was a fantastic, like one of the best scorers the game has ever seen, one of the best shot makers the game has ever seen. And this kind of goes on to the second part of why I enjoy Melo in my life is that like you get to just yell at nerds who don't appreciate him. Like people who will say like, oh yeah, he was an inefficient scorer in his peak. Like, yeah, we can just throw out stats without context. Like he was one of the best scorers in the league. We just hadn't progressed in the game to the point where like we understood things like effective field goal percentage. Or,
Yeah,
like,
I mean, and even that claim is like, yeah, he wasn't a great 3-point shooter when he entered the league, but just like looking at it now, throughout the time with the Knicks, he hit 40% a couple times. Like he was
yeah.
like I think that Knicks year when he um won the scoring title was kind of was probably peak Melo. Like the just the efficiency that was there, the team was good. The decision making was good, and it was just like the epitome of like, I mean, Melo is like one of the epitome of like these offensive guys who have like a go-to package of, you know, all these different types of moves they can get to if they get to their spot. And that was
complete offense.
Yeah, he's complete, can score at all three levels, and just one of the smoothest and probably most imitable players, which I think is a like is a good thing because, you know, like a lot of people doing like a little jab step and then taking a fadeaway and then saying that's Melo, like that only happens because like you were really good at that. Like
yeah. Also, and it's cool him now too. He has kind of like been able to adjust his game after that like horrible stretch where people were like Melo can't play in the NBA anymore. He's like adjusted his game to be a really good role player right now.
Big time.
He's got a great spot up. He's shooting a lot more threes now, but then also like there are a lot of stretches where he'll just carry Portland offensively because, you know, Dame's out there but exhausted, or CJ's out there but like is getting like double teamed every possession, and it'll be like, no, we've gone to Melo on the elbow 3 possessions in a row, and it wound up in 3 straight makes. Like that, he's still a really good NBA player.
Oh yeah,
maybe not. He's still a good NBA.
I just want to highlight one. I was looking at his good year, trying to find the best like stretch I could find. There was a 8-game stretch here at the end of that season.
Oh boy,
where he averaged 37 points a game, on 54, 47, 84 shooting, nearly 10 rebounds and a couple assists. I mean that's like, I mean that's Kevin Durant levels. That's I don't even know. I think the list might end there. It's like someone who's that tall, who's that good at all levels of scoring, it's pretty much just Durant.
Yeah.
Because, like, as you know, LeBron's become a better shooter, but you know, LeBron's mid-range game isn't as automatic as these guys.
Yeah.
But yeah,
and like LeBron, if LeBron's got the ball in the mid-range, he's usually like setting up to go around somebody to get to the basket.
Yeah.
Like, he's not someone that really, I feel like, takes a lot of just like, oh yeah, jab step, turn around, fade away too. Like,
although I think that's kind of been added to his game because he has that like the full like 180 degree turnaround that he really started pulling out. That's like a fall away.
Young player who hit it over this year, but it was beautiful.
Yeah, first really debuted, or not debuted, but first seen on the big screen really with the famous LeBronto series when he was just completely disrespecting them. Yeah.
He was pretending to sip beer in the start of the game. We should have known we were stupid to think he could lose that game right then and there.
I gotta say, probably, I'm sure you'd agree, the landmark, the significant, will be remembered in history Knicks performance from Melo. It's got to be his 62-point game.
The Michael Kidd-Gilchrist game.
Yes, against the Charlotte. Were they the Bob? No, they were the Hornets at that point.
They were the Hornets by that point.
Shot 23 of 35.
Yeah, a really good shooting night.
Got to the line 10 times. But yeah, I mean,
that's an inefficient scorer, though.
He is really just like one of the most prime Melo highlights are just some of the, you know, it's some of the best offensive highlights you can watch.
Yeah, I feel like there was a time where you could kind of tell, like, like the sort of nerds versus people who like basketball thing has been in the news a lot lately.
Yeah.
And I feel like there was a time where, like, Melo was the litmus test for sort of like which side of that you were on.
Yeah.
Like, if you watched Melo and critiqued his shot selection, or were like, oh, well, we keep talking about efficiency because that's just an easy way to sort of like umbrella term people who talk about analytics. And I'm not trying to bash that, but like, yeah, if you watched him and started critiquing him on that ground, it was like, all right, you just don't see what's going on here.
Yeah.
But in any event, I love Melo. I always will. And part of that love has been defending him against people who will say that he's not actually that good.
Yeah.
So with that in mind,
he should be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Absolutely, he should be a Hall of Famer. I don't even know why this is a debate.
And he should be. I mean, I just want to. This Portland team's pretty good, but I just want him to be on a slightly, like, just, you know, just sign with the Lakers. Like, get yourself a ring before you head out.
Like, what is Markieff is on the Lakers, right?
Yeah.
What is Markieff Morris doing that Melo couldn't do?
Yeah, I don't know. I really think in a couple years, what LeBron should do is he should have a team. I mean, I don't know if everyone's going to be healthy enough for this. He should have a team that has Melo and Chris Paul and his son.
Oh, I like that. It's like the LeBron James Avengers.
Yes. And I guess if AD is still there, he's probably by far the best player at that point because everyone is 40.
This is like AD giving all of these old men charity.
Yeah. But yeah, that's a great pick. I assumed your number one was going to be Melo. As I said before, my real number one is Dwayne Wade.
Right.
Same reasons that Tom was kind of talking about Melo. Like, he gave me the most pure joy of any Miami Heat player ever. But, and I'm going to say this as, I guess ultimately he's this guy who is my number one here, which is my non-big three Heat players, plus Haslam. I'm going to say this guy's my fifth favorite.
Okay.
But he's first here, but he's fifth. He comes right after the four I just like amnestied from the list from the get-go.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea of who it is?
So the four that cannot be on your list are UD, LeBron, Dwayne Wade, and and Chris Bosh.
Mm-hmm.
You've used Jimmy. You've used Bam. I have nothing.
Well, he's been on the team for longer than both of them. He has
Myers,
pretty much what?
Myers Leonard.
No. um, he's
I
pretty
was so
much.
excited.
I think feature of the post Big Three Heat, as I say, the era of the Heat that I feel like I've been the most emotionally attached to, um, and that is Goran Dragic.
I like
Um,
that.
I mean, Dragic is like, again, I hate to do the Heat culture thing, but I think he is literally like the one of the epitomes of it. Just uh, the the effort that he brings to every single game, no matter whether it is a random game in February or a finals game. He like that's one thing you can never question with Dragic is effort. In terms of like a Heat history thing, like we got him, we traded for him, we traded a few first round picks. With the Dragic Bosch pick and pop pick and roll combo would be deadly.
Yeah.
And in theory it would.
Yeah.
But literally, I forget exactly how the timeline went, but this is a defining week in my Heat fandom. Almost days after we got Dragic, I think it was 2 days after we got Dragic was when Chris Bosh went down with the blood clots again, and effectively retired. Never saw Dragic and Bosh play together, which is
Right.
one of my biggest, I think, one of the big what ifs. That year, the Heat also had a very funky lineup that ended up going to the Eastern Conference semifinals to go 7 against the Raptors, where it was Dragic, Wade, Luol Deng, Joe Johnson, and Hassan Whiteside. Um, we took the Raptors to 7 somehow with that lineup.
Fantastic characters right there.
Yeah, actually, that might have been the year after. That might have been 2015-16. Now that I ever think about it. But yeah, Dragic, he's been an all-star for the Heat. He has been, one of the leading scorers. He's like climbing up the ranks of Heat leading scorer history. But just personally, he's just kind of a type of person that I look up to, as are all the guys on my list, really. But that type of like never quit, always hustling for the next thing, despite always not being like probably even in the top 5 most athletic guys out there in the court. And then from a basketball perspective, he's exactly the type of player that I like. The way he picks apart defenses, the way he finds perfect little angles to get like floaters off, things like that, really brings me a lot of joy. And I like of anyone on this list, I like genuinely think the Heat should like retire his number when he retires. He's been
Wow.
with the team with 7 years now. I assume he'll be with us at this point probably till he retires. Maybe he'll do one random year somewhere else,
Yeah.
and I could see him coming back to the organization. And now he ushered in the post Big Three era with these weird Wade teams that had Hassan Whiteside, and is now still a key part of the like Heat being good again era, by being best friends with Jimmy Butler, being a mentor to Bam. Yeah, just I mean, I love him. What can I say? Like he's so much fun.
I like that. That's a good pick. I feel like it's nice to have like. I'm glad you didn't go Jimmy or Bam with it, because like it's someone that you really enjoy rooting for. It isn't like, oh yeah, this is the star player on the team. Like, no, this is somebody who we just appreciate for him.
Oh yeah, yeah. His I remember his. I was so happy when he got an All Star appearance a couple years ago. His only All Star appearance of his career, as the
Yeah.
second injury replacement. And it was literally he was having not a great year. He was averaging like 17 points a game, as our like, one of our main scoring options. But it was one of those things like the Heat were the 3rd seed at the All Star break, and everyone was like, "Gotta give the 3rd seed an All Star." Um, So kind of an undeserving All-Star appearance, but a deserving one for the career. Also, Dragic has one of my favorite highlight reels before the Heat, when he was on the Suns. Also has a funky career of being like Steve Nash's backup for a couple years.
Yeah.
But there's a playoff series, I believe it was in 2010. He was the sixth man or seventh man on the Suns, probably more like the seventh or eighth man, actually. They were playing the Spurs in the playoffs, and Dragic had like a 16-point fourth quarter really randomly and was scoring from like every part of the court and ended up like boosting the Suns to win the game. And I think that was the first time like nationally people took attention to Dragic. But yeah. Also, I mean, Dragic kind of ushering in Luka in a little bit of a way. He's a big brother to Luka, who could be the next face of the league. So yeah, he's kind of had a big impact on basketball here in Miami and then in the world.
Person, like before even like draft media people had it, to be like, no, there's a kid named Luka Doncic. He's playing in Spain right now, and you're all gonna know his name in like 2 years.
Yeah, no, he did. It was like because he was. I mean, it was funny because it was like the way they talk about it is like, is it Sabonis Slovenian? No, he's Lithuanian. Who am I thinking of? Slovenian basketball player. You'll see where I'm going with this.
We got not Darko Milicic, but Marko Milicic.
Or was it just like one of the best European players? I forget who it is. I'm going to be honest.
Are you thinking Arvydas Sabonis?
It might have been Arvydas, but it was like a nice like family type of thing where I don't think it was Arvydas, but it could have been like was like Dragic's like favorite player when he was a kid, and was his mentor, and then Luka's favorite player when he was a kid was Dragic, and Dragic became Luka's mentor, and sort of this like European basketball lineage of all these guys being able to play together in the international tournaments. I'm forgetting who it is exactly, but yeah.
It is. I'm looking at an interview on Heat.com right now. It's a former Heat player, Sasha Danilovic.
Okay.
And Sasha Jordan. And then when he got older and started following the NBA, it was Michael Jordan, Allen Iverson, and those guys.
Yeah. So that guy.
But it is cool to see that kind of lineage happening.
Yeah. I've always like wanted to get more into like Eurobasket. Just kind of difficult. Like.
Oh yeah.
I think I at the moment probably want to prioritize like getting into like the WNBA if I want to get into another NBA league, like a basketball league.
I feel like Eurobasket's hard to find too.
Yeah, it's very hard to watch here. Yeah, I mean that's my list. Any funny honorable mentions you had? No good honorable mentions, just random players you thought of.
Let's see. Cole Aldridge for the story that was written when he was with the Knicks of like him airballing half of his shots but then making the other half. That was a very good like post Melo and Amari Knicks story. I don't remember what the exact verbiage was, but yeah, Cole Aldridge is up there. Stephon Marbury obviously is an early days of my Knicks fandom pick in terms of just like a player that felt real, felt exciting to watch, and like got me invested.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, let's see. I didn't put Steve Novak in my top 5, did I?
No, but he got a couple mentions from you.
Yeah, he'd be an honorable mention guy. Just like a kind of like weird but very iconic Knick.
Yeah.
Because he was one of the leading 3-point percentage guys in the league for like a couple years running.
He was. Was it? It was on JJ Redick's podcast with Melo. They talked about Steve Novak and how I forget who the coach was. I think it was Mike Woodson when Woodson was the coach of the Knicks. Apparently there was some like meeting where they were like, you know, our goal and the idea of it was like Novak's going to get a lot of open threes and make them, and he's going to be an important part of the offense. And so, like, Woodson made a joke that was like, our goal is to get Steve paid at the end of the year. Like, something like that. And I think he did.
Yeah. He hung around for a while, being a otherwise pretty, I don't want to say unremarkable player, because he was one of the best shooters in the game. But, like, yeah, being basically a one-trick pony.
Yeah.
Do you have any honorable mention, guys? I know you had that trio at 3.5.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of covered it. I'll give one to Sean Marion, who was a Heat for about 6 months. Who,
I like
that. And I have only one reason he is an honorable mention, is because this is such a weird coincidence. Literally during his tenure with the Heat, I went to a New York Yankees baseball game with my dad, and Sean Marion was across from us in the stands. I met him. I have a picture with him when I was like 10. My dad has been unable to find this picture. I don't know if he's still listening, but he has tried to find it. He took it on his old Razor cell phone.
I love that.
But yes, I have met Sean Marion very briefly. Shaq. But
yeah, that makes sense.
You know,
Shaq doesn't come through your team without being notable.
Yeah, Shaq. My quick Shaq story. I went to a New Jersey Nets Miami Heat game in like 2007 or 2008, in one of Shaq's last years with the Heat. And I gotta say, the stadium was completely empty. No one was here for this game.
Nope.
The Heat weren't good anymore. We'd kind of fallen off after the 2006 one title.
Yeah.
Because all of our players in that title were really, really old.
Yes.
But I got randomly selected to be one of the kids on the court high-fiving the players as they come in.
That's amazing.
It was awesome. Again, I don't know where those pictures are, but I was able to high-five everyone's hand except for Shaq, whose hand was simply too high. I was too small and he was too big that our hands couldn't meet.
I was hoping he would like lean down and have a wholesome moment and be like, "Yeah, I'll get on your level, big fella."
That would be cool. And then, I'm gonna give an honorable mention to I think everyone's favorite Heat player of the last year, which was Solomon Hill.
Solomon,
who has gotten memed to death at this point. But the dude was on the Heat for like 6 months, and he tweets and posts about them on Instagram like he was on them, like it's his like alma mater or something. He showed up very randomly after not playing at all in the bubble. Showed up very randomly in an Eastern Conference Finals game, where it looked like he hadn't gotten a haircut or a shave in months. And there is a image of him just looking somehow directly at the camera, going like he has no idea what's going on. And it's just like one of the best basketball pictures. But yeah, he's and he just posted, like, we just played the Hawks a couple times. He posted about them on Twitter, posted a picture of the banner, and was like, "I'm never gonna forget this."
I saw that.
Which is just funny to, like, you know, it's nice when a player leaves and there's still good relations there, especially if one who maybe played 10 games, maybe less.
It's not there.
Yeah.
But unless you've got anything else to add, is that gonna do it for us?
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna give any descriptions here. Chris Anderson, Birdman. Dion Waiters was fun to root for about 10 games. Michael Beasley.
Any notable Dion Waiters stories from his time on the Heat?
Yes. There was the time where he had got in trouble for some illicit drug use and was suspended secretly or something, and then was literally
suspension?
It was a thing where, like, Dion hasn't played in 3 games and he was like a major part of the rotation, and then it was like, then he got suspended for another 5.
Apparently,
he was doing something on the plane, on the team plane.
I
um,
think if I remember correctly, it wound up getting the plane grounded.
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
because I think the plane would have been technically committing a federal crime.
Well, I think was it if I and this is like again if I remember correctly, like he had a panic attack in the air,
Yeah, no, yeah, yeah, no. It was like a
and
scary
then it was like the
situation. I
plane had
think
to come
he,
down and this happened.
yeah, I think he had a bad trip and had a panic attack. Is what happened. Um,
Yeah.
uh, he's a good example of someone who is very bitter ever since he left the Heat, and flexes on the Heat a lot in subtweeting us that he won the championship over us, even though he didn't play for the Lakers at all. um, but he has one iconic shot where he hit a game winner with about 2 seconds left against the Warriors, which was one of the best things ever. Like just in Steph's face, it was amazing. But yeah, I actually, yeah, I had a lot of guys. I don't want to go on forever. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure we could both go on forever because we both love
Some of
watching
our
basketball.
teams, the
Yeah.
players on them. But
Um,
if that's going to do it for us. Thanks everybody for tuning in.
yeah. We'll be back tomorrow night. Not sure what time yet. We'll update everyone, but we're gonna do a quick like half hour on the All-Star teams.
Yes. All right. Later.